Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to another Throwback Thursday video. This is Metroid Zero Mission. Um, I've always liked the Metroid series, but I actually haven't finished that many games in the series. I finished Super Metroid, I finished Metroid Fusion, and I finished the original Metroid. And Metroid's a weird series for me. It's always interested me. I've always found it to be intriguing and pretty cool, and the sci-fi in it and the whole intergalactic bounty hunters thing with Samus and the space pirates and all that appeals to all the science fiction nerd in me. But just never got around to finishing all the games, mainly because there's so much exploration in them that I get into them and then something comes out that eventually sucks me in, and it's something I hope to rectify fairly soon. I've had the Metroid Prime trilogy for the Wii since it came out, which I'm kind of proud of that because they don't make that anymore. And I'd played the first Metroid Prime and I liked it, but it was the same thing. I got probably 10 or 12 hours or so into it, and then something else came along and sucked my attention away from it, and I just never got a chance to go back to it. And like I said, I mean, that's something I hope to rectify, especially with the Prime trilogy, because I hear so many good things about it, and that trilogy was well received by fans and critics alike. So I do hope to. Well, I'm not. I don't say I hope. I am going to set aside time and play through those games. I may cheat and use a guide just so I can get through them in a decent amount of time and not have to spend 40 hours just dicking around aimlessly, because I didn't use a guide for this and I dick around aimlessly for a little bit, and I'll try to make sure I cut those parts out. But no, this was always a series that I liked, and I remember playing the first one on the NES and thinking it was pretty cool, and it wasn't really like many of the more sci-fi oriented NES games that I'd played. Really, the only other NES games I played that were even kind of remotely close to being like these sci-fi type of games was oh, what the fuck was that game called with the robot? Metal Storm? Is it Metal Storm? But you were like this weird Gundam-looking robot, and it was Metal Storm. You were this weird little Gundam-looking robot dude. You could traverse on the ground or onto the ceilings, and that was mechanics and boss fights and things like that. That was a fucking badass game. I have to see if I can dig that out and find it somewhere. But outside of that, I can't really remember any other games, that were real sci-fi on the NES that I played. Because off the top of my head, my NES collection consisted of Metal Storm, the three Super Mario Brothers games, both Zelda games, Dr. Mario, Castlevania games. Man, what else did I have? I can't remember. It's been a long time. Oh, Dragon Warrior, which is something I keep meaning to go back to, and that was quite a large RPG for me at the time that I didn't quite. I got pretty far into it, but I never actually beat it. And looking back, I don't know why, but I mean, that was 20 odd years ago. Something like that. Oh man. That dude had no fucks to give. He took half my energy in like 2 hits. I want to get a different gamepad for when I play these games because using an Xbox 360 controller just isn't cutting it sometimes. Just with this, because I don't like using the stick for some of these games, and the D-pad on the Xbox 360 controller leaves a little to be desired. I could hook up the PS3 controller, but usually when I'm playing these, it's just too much of a hassle. Plus, everything's kind of spur of the moment. I think out of the Metroid games I did play, though, Super Metroid was probably my favorite. And that's just a game, too, that holds up really well. You know, it has the nostalgia factor, but it aged well. You know, not a lot of games aged real well, but I think it has a lot to do with that time and those systems. Like it seems like SNES and NES and Genesis, like those early 8 and 16-bit games, time was kind to them. There's certain N64 games, for instance, or PlayStation 1 games, you go back to them and you try playing them now, and it's like, holy fuck. Once the rose tint wears off of your glasses, you realize they weren't, at the time, it was probably, like, ingenious what they were doing, but I think just the way modern control schemes have evolved, it's kind of archaic and clunky to go back to certain games, especially on the N64, and especially if you're playing it on a emulator, things like that. Like, I don't have any problem playing Ocarina of Time on my N64, but if I try playing it on an emulator, it's like, fuck, you know? Just mainly because of the way the buttons are laid out, it makes it a little bit trickier. Because, especially with that N64 controller, because you had that B and the A button and the 4 camera buttons, I guess they were. They kind of complicate things a little bit, having the 6. You had the 6 face buttons, and then, you know, if you're using a 360 controller on PC, then you don't have 6 face buttons. I'm sure there's probably controllers out there you can buy that do, or even interfaces that let you hook up those old classic controllers to your PC. I just haven't dug around and really looked. But, oh fuck. There's something kind of charming, though, I'm discovering about these Game Boy Advance games as I've been delving into them. You know, as I've stated before, Castlevania Araya of Sorrow was probably one of the most heavily played GBA games I ever put time into, and I loved that game. Probably, I'd say it's maybe my second favorite Castlevania game outside of Super Castlevania 4, outside of Super Castlevania 4, and these GBA games, it seems like they kind of, and I know like GBA is kind of old, but they tap into that nostalgic factor of like those old console games, but they have a little bit more modern thought processes. Fuck. More of a modern thought process behind their control schemes and all that. Like, you know, they learned from the past a little bit, but yet they're familiar and they're pretty easily accessible. Probably because I think did the Game Boy Advance only have the B and the A button? I don't think it had a Y and an X button. But there's a lot of Game Boy Advance games that I'm finding that I enjoy. You know, as I said, I played Metroid Fusion and beat it. And Castlevania. I'm having fun with the Minish Cap, which is a game that I wish I would have tried a long time ago. Then I played Zero Mission before, but I didn't get too far into it. And essentially, for those of you who don't know, Zero Mission is basically just a remake of the original Metroid. It's a retelling of those events with a couple extra added things. Didn't mean to use all my missiles right there. Sometimes fat finger my trigger buttons and accidentally hold them down. But what was I saying? Oh, I'm finding that there's a lot of handheld games that are very good, and the appeal to play those games is there. Like, there's some 3DS games I would love to play, but on the flip side of that, I can't. Handhelds have been hit and miss with me. I've had a Vita, and while I like the Vita, I ended up selling it because I just never used it, because if I'm at home, I'm playing on my consoles or my PC, or generally if I go anywhere, my trips aren't long enough to drag along a handheld console and play a game or anything like that, so it's kind of a weird bag for me. Like, I'd really like to play Link Between Worlds and the 3D remakes of Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. Majora's Mask is a game I'd really like to get into. I've started dabbling in it on the N64, but it's just right now I just don't have the time to put into it to probably appreciate it the way it should be played and appreciated, but you know, I guess, like I said, on the flip side though, if I had a 3DS, I'd probably be more inclined to play it, but I don't know where I would fit that into my routine, you know, and especially since I can't record gameplay off of a 3DS. Well, I could if I spent the money to get all the capture stuff done for it, but I just don't have that kind of cash lying around. I know people are like, we bought a PlayStation 3, but that's pretty big or not a PlayStation 3, a PlayStation 4, Xbox One. But there's you get the console investment, which I think you can get a 3DS for like $200, and then you have to make the investment into making it, you know, having the capture hardware integrated into it, and I think that can run anywhere to like $100, $200. So I mean, you're already up to $400. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's something eventually, at some point down the line, I'll look into. By the time I finally have the funds lying around to do something like that, they'll probably have like the 3DS Super Triple XL that doesn't come with. It won't come with a charger or a fucking. I don't know. I was trying to be funny, but it fell flat there. I'm tired. It's been a long day, and it's late. But I really wanted to get a video out today, and just between I pissed away my whole day waiting for this guy to come appraise the house that I'm renting, because those of you that have been following my videos probably know I've mentioned before I'm trying to buy the house that I've been renting. And this fucking dude must work for Comcast on the side or something, because he said he'd be here in the afternoon, and he showed up at like 4:30. And he's like, "Oh, am I interrupting your dinner?" I'm like, no, I'm making it, but fuck, man. Wasted a whole goddamn day waiting for this dude to show up and look around and take some pictures and stick his head up in my crawl space. That sounded dirty. But, so I didn't get around to making this video sooner, and I really wanted to, and I actually had no idea what game I was going to play. And then I ended up, I bought a couple amiibos off of Amazon with an Amazon gift card. I got Link and Zelda for a steal. I got the two of them. I think it was like, I had $20 on the gift card, and the two of them together came to like $19.99 or something like that. It was awesome. And then I had to go get my boy from his Cub Scout meeting after this dude got done doing whatever to appraise the house, and then we stopped. He's been bugging me for an NHL game because he likes the sports games. So if you ever see me on a console playing a sports game, that's not me. But anyways, we stopped at GameStop, and they had Samus, whatever, and Bowser, and I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I always liked Samus, and I'm probably never gonna be able to afford like any of the higher quality figures they made of her. So I picked her up, and I got Bowser just for the hell of it. And I actually have Sheik on the way, and then I'm done. I got my 3 Zelda characters that I wanted, and then I got 2 more for. You can use up to 5 on Hyrule Warriors each day, so there's my 5 for Hyrule Warriors. But they'll sit nicely next to the rest of my collection once I get everything situated and organized. Trying to decide what I'm going to do with my game room. If I'm going to move everything down in the basement and be like one of them basement dwelling nerds that we're stereotyped as, or the only problem with that though is the 2 biggest spaces in my basement, because you gotta understand this house isn't very big. It's like everything's like crammed in right now, but my basement's basically 3 rooms. There's a laundry room, then there's like a storage room that I actually would be perfect for this kind of stuff because it has like these, like the floor, then there's a wall that comes up maybe like 3.5, 4 feet, and then it has like a flat area on it that's probably 2 or 3 feet deep, and then the wall continues up to the ceiling, and that room would be perfect to just set up, like I could set up my monitors and the TV and stuff down there and have all kinds of room and shit, and I'd be able to keep all my stuff fairly organized, and I could have like my audio stuff for like when I do music and things like that all set up real nice, and everything would be separated and not so cluttered. But the furnace is in that room, and then the other empty space, there's like a countertop with like there's a sink and stuff, which I plan on ripping the sink out no matter what I do, and then laying like a piece of like stainless or making a countertop to put down to fill in the hole where the sink would be. And I'm either gonna make that like, I'm gonna put a TV down there regardless, so either I can have areas set up so I don't have all this shit piled in my living room, or I'm gonna set it up so when my boy's here, he can go down there and destroy the basement instead of destroying the living room and having all this toys lying around and shit. But the hot water heater's in that room, and granted it doesn't turn on as much as the furnace does in the winter. Actually, theoretically it shouldn't turn on at all, since if I'm down there making videos and stuff, it shouldn't have to heat up the water all that often. But the other room that I would really like to use the furnace is the big deterrent, because obviously it, especially like in the winter time, it'd turn on a lot and be picked up on my microphones and everything. So I don't know what all I'm going to do yet, but I need to figure something out. But at any rate, I'm rambling. What I want to do, ultimately what I'd like to do, is I have quite a collection of things. My physical copies of games has kind of dwindled. I've traded stuff and sold stuff and things of that nature, and I've kind of basically gone to digital, mainly for 2 reasons. One is the aforementioned space issues. 2, it's just so much more convenient to buy something off of Steam or Xbox Live or the PlayStation Network, especially when they have sales, because usually they have pretty good deals, than it is for me to go to like GameStop or whatever. And the GameStop here isn't terrible, but it's just, I don't know, it's just such a hassle going there sometimes and being bothered with power up and rewards and all that other bullshit. But I have quite a vast array of collectibles that I've amassed over the years, probably going back to like 2002 or 3, somewhere in there. I have a ton of the McFarlane movie maniacs and stuff like that, and then a bunch of movie stuff, like when I was big into horror and everything like that, and some of the stuff's pretty rare nowadays, like original movie maniac figures and things like that, and Clive Barker's Tortured Souls and things of that nature. But I started collecting some video game figures. Like I got the first 2, or maybe it's only the first series of Ratchet and Clank figures. Then I got a bunch of like Assassin's Creed stuff, and I got the cogs from Gears of War. Not from the first game though. I got various versions of them. I got like got Marcus and Dom from the first game, and then Baird and Cole from the 3rd game, and Anya. Like I don't have any Locust figures or anything like that. But then I got some Play Arts Kai figures. I got the Lara Croft figure that came with the special edition of Tomb Raider. I got the DMC4 Dante. I got Femshep, Garrus, Tally, Ashley, some other stuff. I got some Claptraps. I got the statue from the Halo Reach special edition, the Alduin statue from the Skyrim special edition. So I mean, I got all this shit that I want to have laid out and things like that. And I collect some swords and things of that nature, and I just want to show it all off, I guess, for lack of a better term. But I need to figure out how I'm going to do that. I mean, in the long run, it'll be nice, you know, once this is all settled and all this mortgage shit's done. Oh god, it's a nightmare. It's not so much it's a nightmare, it's just time consuming and a pain in the ass. But I got a room that I can finish, money and time permitting, that I would ultimately turn into like a movie room, studio room type of thing, you know. Eventually get a bigger TV than what I have, and have like movie nights with people, and I'd have all my gear set up to do videos and music and everything like that, and I'd have my guitars and all my shit lying in there. But because like I'd like to get those real nice glass cases and stuff like that, and it's just I just don't have room for it with the layout that I have now. But if I had that room, when I get that room finished, then I'd have the space for that kind of stuff, you know. And, that's something that kind of a goal I'm working towards once the house is mine, you know. But I'm kind of going off topic here, and I've been rambling on and getting lost in this game, so I think we're gonna wrap this video up here, and then we'll see what next week brings with our Throwback Thursday. Also, suggestions are welcome as to games that I should try out, especially Game Boy Advance games. Like if anybody knows of any good Game Boy Advance games to try out, because I've been having a lot of fun screwing around with those. And then, you know, of course, I've been doing the history videos, like talking about games that have had a big impact on my gaming hobby, and then you know, my playthrough videos and stuff like that. So the covers I've been doing the Zelda songs right now. I'm got a few more of those to do, but kind of reaching the end of those. I'm gonna start mixing it up, doing some other songs from other series. I might get back into the Castlevania songs and some Final Fantasy songs, but and then again, you know, suggestions for those are more than welcomed. But like always, guys, I want to thank you all for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. All right, have a good one.